Basically, when I was at school, the idea was I wanted to go to the Royal Academy of Music and be a musician, real. You have to have two instruments to go there that you were really proficient on, and I was very good at the trumpet, not that good on the piano, so I realised I couldn't quite make the grade by the time, because I started pretty late actually playing these things. So I discovered the rock, if you like, and started playing keyboards in a band, and then I was a drummer, and then I was a bass player, then I sort of played a bit of guitar, whatever. But over the years, with that sort of classical learning at school, and then my rock roots from playing in bands, it's helped in many ways, because when I'm talking to a band, I can talk to them on their level and understand and know what they're going through. So it's dead important, I think, to be able to be musical as well in this job. Back to school, there I was, not going to go to music college. I know, I'll become an economist. So I went to college, did that for a bit, finished that. And then now what? And luckily for me, I had a good friend from school who'd got himself a job as a tape op at Morgan Studios, and said, "That's a great job. You should do it. You'd become a recording engineer." So we wrote to every blooming studio there was, got the "go away, no jobs for you, mate." And then, as luck would have it, an opening happened at Morgan. And so, because he was there, he told them, give him an interview because he's my mate and he's decent. I can vouch for him. So when did the interviews, they liked me, and I got the job, and that was that. I grew up in Hendon, in North London, northwest London, and which wasn't too far from Morgan, which was in Willesden. Mm-hmm. So I was living at home when I started there, because the pay was a massive £75 a month. And I mean, okay, it was 1975, but still, you couldn't survive on that. Sure. So because I was at home still, I could. And the fact that you worked every God-sent hour, you couldn't spend your money. The first thing that I noticed and actually did anything for me was Jimi Hendrix on the TV, and I was really young, and I suppose the fact that everybody that was watching it, who was on the Lulu show, was like, "Oh my God, what is this? This is a demon," whatever, was even more, I was more drawn to it, because it was kind of a bit of rebellion, I suppose. I don't know what I was rebelling against. I just liked the music, I guess. And from that, we got into listening to Free, and to Zeppelin, and to Sabbath, and then Uriah Heep, and UFO, and Jethro Tull, and Yes, and all these bands that were happening at the time. That was all what was going on, so it was great. You never know whether it's going to sell one copy or a gazillion. You just don't know, and you have an inkling, I guess, because you like it. And the way I look at things is, well, if I like it, then others are going to like it, because I'm the same as them, and we all like that kind of music. Yeah. And that's been the sort of barometer, really, of how I can judge things in a way. But I'm just as amazed as anyone as anything successful. There wasn't that much research you could do other than what you read in the papers and heard on the radio, really. Now with the old internets and whatnot, you can find everything. So if a band approaches me, I'll check about and see, can they play? Are the songs happening? Do I like it? And if the answers, all those get ticked, then we're off, really. There is a lot of smoke and mirrors, as they say in this business. But I try and be honest with a band, that comes in, and it's happened quite a few times. The guitar players come in, for example, and says, "Can I get him an Eddie Van Halen guitar sound?" And I look at him and say, "No," because but I've got the same guitar and the same app. I said, "Yeah, but you're not Eddie." "Well, but I've got the same." No, mate, you don't understand. You are you, and if Eddie came in and played anything else, it'd still sound like Eddie, and that's what they have to understand. And eventually they do, and you try and design a sound for them that gosh, that's me. And once they realise that they are individuals, okay, dig whoever you like, you know, that's it. We all have to. But you have to realise you cannot be somebody else. You are yourself. That's it. That was born of over the years recording bands, and quite a few of them being independent, i.e. they self-finance their thing and then they have their record and then they sell it at gigs or net or whatever. But it became very apparent that they weren't geared to do it properly and not actually fulfilling their potential with it. So I thought, what about if we had a label? We carried on doing it as we did, the bands financed themselves. We then have a label that releases this stuff and we split the profits equal. No, you know, you have to pay back in advance and you get 10% of this and 3% of that. It's, we've sold this amount of records, we made this much profit, here's your money, here's my money, which I think is a really fair way of doing it. It also puts us together in the same boat, and whether we make £1 or £1 million, we all make our payday. And it's incredibly important, and a lot of other labels don't work on that principle at all. They give a band a few quid, they'll sell a few thousand records and still owe the label. And having realised that the big record sales don't happen that often anymore with metal or rock bands, you have to cut the cloth accordingly to fit. So there's still a market there. It's having a vehicle to let people know that they can buy this music. It's up to them if they do or not, but the fact is that there is a vehicle for them to know that it's there in the first place. So lots of the bands involved really gung-ho to do it, and we've got great plans with when we launch it with a big tour to go with it, and it'll be called the Pound Stretcher Tour because it'll cost £1 to get in, and it'll be at universities, and there'll be a nice retail outlet there for people to buy the band's records and their merchandises and whatnot, and it will be a professional show with proper PAs and lights and crews and whatnot, and will only cost a quid to get in. Obviously the sponsors, whoever they're going to be, have a vested interest in making sure that people know about it, you know, because it's one thing having their name on it, but people have to know so that they can get there. And the idea that we do it in Freshers Week at the unis, where people are just having a good time and getting to know where everything is, I think is a great time, and it would be just about right to have everything in place for that. You know, I would have loved to have worked with Free. Well, in fact, I did, but they weren't there. I did some 12-inch mixes back in the day, but that band was just so brilliant. You know, even when they didn't play anything in between things, they were genius, you know. I would have loved to have done that, or to have worked with Hendrix, or some, you know. But to be honest, I'd love to work with Jeff Beck. Absolutely. Now, obviously, this is my livelihood, so I need to make a couple of quid to live. But the main thing is because I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. And if I didn't, I couldn't do it. You can read me like a book, you know when I'm pissed off and when I'm not, and it's a great. I'm incredibly lucky. That's all I can say is that I rode the old train of when the big successes were to be had. I was lucky enough to have, and then when it all dipped, I was still lucky enough to be working, and still am, and I don't care as long as I can keep doing it. It's the best job in the world, really, because when you're finished and you see people sort of smiling and absolutely knocked out by what they've achieved, it's brilliant. There's no other job really. You can walk in, a bunch of guys with nothing but a load of instruments, and you've got nothing at the beginning, and at the end of the day you might have a few great tunes that didn't exist before. It's fabulous.